massive alien ship floated silently above Earth's moon, like a metal mountain covered in strange blue lights. Ambassador Keth stood on the bridge looking down at the small blue planet through the viewing window. His tall, thin body swayed gently as he studied the world below. The skin on his face was smooth and gray like polished stone. His large black eyes showed no emotion as he watched the human ships approaching. "Ambassador, the human delegation is requesting permission to board," said Commander Orth from behind him. The insectoid officer clicked his mandibles nervously. His 6 arms moved quickly across the control panels. "Their ships are so primitive, I can barely detect their energy signatures." Keth turned around slowly. "That is exactly what puzzles us, Commander. These humans have developed space travel, advanced computers, and medical technology that rivals our own. Yet their weapons are still based on chemical explosions and metal projectiles. It makes no sense." Science Officer Vex floated near the ceiling in his crystalline form. His body glowed with soft purple light as he spoke. "I have analyzed their military broadcasts for 3 Earth years. They still use gunpowder, Ambassador." "Gunpowder. My people abandoned such crude methods 15,000 years ago, as did mine," added Diplomat Yena. The telepathic being stood near the communication console. Her blue skin shimmered as she concentrated on reading the thoughts of the approaching humans. "Yet there is something strange about their minds. When they think of weapons, I sense not primitive thinking but careful planning. There are layers of strategy I cannot understand." Ambassador Keth nodded. "This is why the Galactic Council sent us. We must understand why the humans refuse to evolve their military technology. Every other species we have encountered has naturally progressed to energy-based weapons. The humans seem stuck in some ancient phase of development." The bridge doors slid open with a soft hiss. A human woman walked in wearing a white coat over dark blue clothing. Her brown hair was pulled back neatly and her brown eyes looked around the bridge with obvious fascination. Behind her came a human male in green military clothing. His posture was straight and alert. His gray eyes missed nothing as they scanned. "The alien crew. Dr. Elena Rodriguez," the woman said, stepping forward with a slight smile. "Xenobiologist and Earth's primary diplomatic contact for this mission." She gestured to the man behind her. "This is Colonel Jake Mitchell, United States, Marine Corps. He will be handling military consultation during our discussions." Ambassador Keth moved forward and performed the traditional Valerian greeting by touching his forehead with his right hand. "Welcome aboard the Harmony's Edge. I am Ambassador Keth of the Valerian Empire. We are honored to finally meet with representatives of Earth." Dr. Rodriguez copied the gesture awkwardly. Colonel Mitchell simply nodded once with military precision. His hand remained near his hip, where a weapon would normally hang. "We have prepared quarters for your stay," Keth continued. "But first we hoped you might help us understand something that has puzzled the Galactic Council for many years." "Of course," Dr. Rodriguez replied. "What would you like to know?" Science Officer Vex floated down until he was level with the humans. His crystal body pulsed with curious light. "Your weapons technology, Dr. Rodriguez. We have observed that while your species has advanced rapidly in almost every field of science, your military still uses primitive kinetic weapons. Why have you not developed energy-based weapons like every other spacefaring race?" Colonel Mitchell's expression did not change, but his eyes grew slightly harder. "Our weapons work just fine, thank you." "But surely you must see the advantages," Commander Orth clicked excitedly. "Energy weapons have unlimited ammunition as long as you have power. They can be adjusted for different levels of damage. They do not rely on heavy metal projectiles or dangerous chemical explosives. Our intelligence reports indicate your species still manufactures bullets, artillery shells, and even primitive edged weapons," added Vex. "Some of your soldiers carry knives made of simple steel. This seems incredibly backward for a species capable of interstellar travel." Dr. Rodriguez looked at Colonel Mitchell, who gave her a slight nod. "Our military philosophy has evolved differently than yours," she said carefully. "We have found that our current weapons serve our needs effectively." Diplomat Yana moved closer to the humans. Her telepathic abilities were stronger at short range. There is something you are not telling us. Your thoughts suggest your weapons are not primitive at all, but carefully chosen for specific reasons. What reasons? Colonel Mitchell stepped forward slightly. Ma'am, with respect, our military doctrine is based on centuries of warfare and testing. We use what works. But what works better than pure energy projection? Keth asked. Energy weapons can penetrate most armor, can be fired silently, and leave no physical ammunition to manufacture or transport. They are clearly superior to chemical-powered projectiles. Are they? Mitchell asked quietly. The aliens looked at each other in confusion. Commander Orth's mandibles clicked rapidly. Of course they are. It is simple physics. Energy is more efficient than matter. Dr. Rodriguez saw the tension building and intervened. Perhaps we could demonstrate both types of weapons for comparison. That might help everyone understand the differences better. Science Officer Vex brightened with excitement. An excellent idea. We have prepared training facilities where we can show you our latest plasma rifles and particle beam weapons. Surely once you see their capabilities, you will understand why every advanced civilization uses them. Colonel Mitchell allowed himself a small smile. And we can show you some of our equipment too. Fair trade. Ambassador Keth seemed pleased with this arrangement. Yes, this will help us understand your thinking. We can arrange a joint training exercise tomorrow. Our weapons specialists are eager to demonstrate why energy weapons have become universal throughout the galaxy. I'm sure they are, Mitchell replied. As the group began moving toward the quarters prepared for the human delegation, Diplomat Yana quietly approached Dr. Rodriguez. Your colonel's thoughts are very disciplined. I can sense confidence, but also something else. He knows something about weapons that we do not. Dr. Rodriguez smiled diplomatically. Colonel Mitchell has extensive combat experience. He has strong opinions about what works in real warfare. Real warfare, Yana repeated thoughtfully. Most species move beyond such things once they develop energy weapons. Physical combat becomes unnecessary when you can simply disable opponents from a distance. Does it? Dr. Rodriguez asked. That evening, as the humans settled into their assigned quarters, Ambassador Keth called a private meeting with his senior staff. The conference room was dimly lit to accommodate the different vision requirements of the various species present. Initial impressions? Keth asked. The humans are hiding something, Commander Orth stated immediately. Their confidence about their primitive weapons suggests they know something we do not. Science Officer Vex pulsed with frustrated light. I cannot understand their logic. Energy weapons are objectively superior in every measurable way. Range, accuracy, power, efficiency, reliability. There is no rational reason to continue using kinetic projectiles, unless, Diplomat Yana said slowly, they have encountered something that energy weapons cannot handle effectively. The room fell silent. Keth leaned forward in his chair. What do you mean? The human colonel's thoughts suggest extensive combat experience, but not just against other humans. There were flashes of memory involving technology that could adapt or defend against energy attacks. I could not read the details clearly, but there was definitely something more than simple species versus species warfare in his background. Vex's crystalline form flickered with concern. That would be impossible. Humans have only recently achieved space travel. What could they have fought that we have not encountered in our thousands of years of galactic exploration? Tomorrow's demonstration will be very interesting, Keth concluded. I suggest we observe not just their weapons, but their tactical thinking. Perhaps the humans have learned something about warfare that the rest of us have forgotten. As the alien leadership planned their observation strategy, Colonel Mitchell stood in his quarters cleaning a simple combat knife. The blade gleamed under the soft alien lighting. Dr. Rodriguez watched him work the whetstone across the steel edge. "Do you think they'll understand?" she asked. "No," Mitchell replied without looking up from his work. "Not until they have to." The morning sun cast long shadows across the training facility that the aliens had constructed overnight. The building looked like a smooth metal dome with glowing panels along its sides. Inside, Holographic projectors created different combat scenarios that could change in seconds. Ambassador Keth stood in the observation deck with his staff, watching as both human and alien forces prepared for the demonstration. Lieutenant Sarah Thompson checked her M4 rifle one final time. The weapon felt familiar and comfortable in her hands. Around her, 5 other Marines performed their own equipment checks. Sergeant Mike Chen knelt beside a mortar tube, running his fingers along the metal surface. His team had set up machine guns and grenade launchers in a neat line nearby. "Their weapons look so bulky," commented Science Officer Vex from the observation deck. His crystalline form flickered with confusion. "Look at all the metal components, the mechanical moving parts. So many things that could break or jam." Below on the training floor, Commander Orth demonstrated an alien plasma rifle to Dr. Rodriguez. The weapon was sleek and smooth with no visible moving parts. It hummed softly with contained energy. "This model can fire continuously for 6 hours on a single power cell," Orth explained proudly. "The plasma bolts can punch through 3 meters of steel plating." Dr. Rodriguez nodded politely while watching Colonel Mitchell examine the weapon. The Marine's expression remained neutral, but she noticed how he tested the weapon's weight distribution and checked for obvious weak points. Captain Lisa Parker led another group of Marines to a different section of the facility. Her team carried equipment that looked ancient compared to the sleek alien technology. Bolt-action rifles, shotguns, and even crossbows were lined up on tables. The aliens stared at these weapons with obvious bewilderment. "Are those wooden stocks?" asked Diplomat Yenna, pointing at one of the rifles. "You still use organic materials in your weapons?" "Wood is reliable," Parker replied simply. "It does not conduct electricity, it does not show up on most scanners, and it has been tested in every climate on Earth for thousands of years." The first test was accuracy at long range. The aliens set up targets at various distances, some stationary and others moving in complex patterns. Commander Orth took the first shot with his plasma rifle. The bright blue bolt struck the center of a target 500 meters away, vaporizing a perfect circle in the metal plate. "Impressive," acknowledged Colonel Mitchell. "Very clean shot." Lieutenant Thompson stepped up with her rifle. She lay down in the prone position, adjusted her scope, and took careful aim. The crack of gunpowder echoed through the facility as her bullet struck the same target. The metal plate now had a small hole punched through it, with twisted metal edges around the impact point. "Interesting," observed Vex. The kinetic impact created structural damage beyond the point of impact. The plasma bolts simply removed material cleanly. "Which is better?" asked Ambassador Keth. "Depends on what you are trying to accomplish," Mitchell replied. The second test involved rapid fire at multiple targets. The aliens demonstrated weapons that could fire streams of energy bolts with perfect accuracy. The targets were destroyed efficiently and completely. When the Marines took their turn, Sergeant Chen's machine gun team opened fire with sustained bursts. The sound was deafening compared to the silent alien weapons. But something unexpected happened. The kinetic rounds did not just destroy the targets. They ricocheted and bounced around the training area, hitting additional targets that had not been directly aimed at. Fragments of shattered targets became projectiles themselves, damaging equipment in unexpected locations. "Your weapons create secondary effects," noted Diplomat Yenna. "The energy from one shot spreads to affect multiple areas." "Collateral damage," corrected Dr. Marcus Webb, the military historian who had joined the demonstration. "But also tactical opportunities. Sometimes you want to hit things you cannot see directly." The third test moved to an urban warfare simulation. Holographic buildings filled the training area, complete with civilians, vehicles, and complex terrain. The scenario required the teams to clear hostile forces while avoiding damage to friendly targets. The alien team moved efficiently through the simulated city. Their energy weapons allowed for precise shots that eliminated enemies without damaging surrounding structures. Their movements were coordinated and methodical. They completed the scenario, with perfect scores for accuracy and civilian safety. "Now watch how humans approach the same problem," Colonel Mitchell said quietly. Captain Parker's team entered the simulation with a completely different strategy. Instead of moving through the buildings, they went around them. Instead of precise, shots at individual targets. They used explosive charges to collapse entire structures where enemies were hiding. Where the aliens had been surgical, the humans were overwhelming. "You destroyed half the city," Commander Orth observed with obvious disapproval. "We eliminated all hostile forces in 60% less time," Parker replied. "And we did not lose any team members. But the collateral damage was calculated and acceptable for the mission parameters," Mitchell interrupted. "Sometimes the building is not worth saving." Science Officer Vex pulsed with frustrated energy. "This makes no sense. Precision is always better than destruction." "Is it?" asked Dr. Webb. "What if the building itself was the weapon? What if the enemy was using the structure as a shield? What if you needed to deny the area to future hostile forces?" The fourth test was the most revealing. The aliens created an electromagnetic pulse scenario where all electronic equipment would be disabled. They explained that this was a common defensive measure used by advanced civilizations to neutralize energy weapons. "Of course, this test is purely theoretical," Vex explained. "Once energy weapons are disabled, combat typically ends since no one can fight effectively." The EMP pulse filled the training area with invisible energy. All the alien weapons immediately stopped working. Their plasma rifles became dead weight in their hands. Even their armor systems shut down, leaving them vulnerable and blind. The Marines continued fighting as if nothing had happened. Lieutenant Thompson's rifle fired just as reliably as before. Sergeant Chen's mortar launched shells with mechanical precision. The machine guns chattered away without any change in performance. Captain Parker's team moved through the disabled alien positions like ghosts, their weapons functioning perfectly in the electromagnetic chaos. "How is this possible?" Ambassador Keth demanded from the observation deck. Colonel Mitchell looked up at the aliens with a slight smile. "Gunpowder does not care about electromagnetic pulses. Steel does not need computer chips to be sharp. Mechanical systems do not require electronics to function." The final test was ship-to-ship boarding action. The aliens created a simulation of combat inside spacecraft corridors. Their energy weapons were designed for such scenarios, with settings that could stun rather than kill, avoiding hull breaches that would endanger everyone aboard. The human approach was completely different. They used shotguns loaded with special rounds that would not penetrate ship hulls, but would stop any attacker instantly. They employed flashbang grenades that relied on sound and light rather than electronic systems. Most surprisingly, they used combat knives and hand-to-hand fighting techniques when the corridors became too narrow for firearms. "You fight with your hands," Diplomat Yenna observed with amazement. "Even when you have weapons, you use physical combat." "Energy weapons can be turned off," explained Captain Parker, demonstrating a knife-fighting technique. "They can be hacked, jammed, or disabled. A knife never runs out of power." By the end of the day, the aliens were more confused than when they started. Their weapons were clearly superior in raw power, accuracy, and efficiency. But the humans had demonstrated capabilities that energy weapons could not match. Reliability in any environment, effectiveness against electronic countermeasures, and tactical flexibility that came from using simple mechanical principles. Ambassador Keth called his staff together that evening for an emergency meeting. The conference room was filled with concerned alien faces and flickering energy beings. "I do not understand what we witnessed today," Keth admitted. "The humans should have been completely outclassed by our technology. Instead, they showed us weaknesses in our approach that we never knew existed." Commander Orth clicked his mandibles nervously. "Their weapons are crude, but they work in situations where ours fail completely. The electromagnetic pulse test was particularly disturbing." Science Officer Vex pulsed with dim, worried light. "I have been analyzing their tactical doctrine. They do not design weapons for ideal conditions. They design them for the worst possible scenarios. Every human weapon assumes that everything else will fail." "Why would they think that way?" asked Diplomat Yenna. "What kind of warfare requires such paranoid planning?" Dr. Rodriguez found Colonel Mitchell in the human quarters, cleaning his sidearm with the same methodical care he had shown with his knife. The weapon was old by human standards, but every part gleamed with maintenance. "Do you think they learned anything today?" she asked. Mitchell looked up from his work. "They learned that their weapons have weaknesses they never considered, but they have not learned why that matters yet." The alarms started screaming at 3 in the morning. Ship time. Red lights flashed throughout the research station orbiting Mars as automated systems detected multiple hostile contacts approaching at high speed. Ambassador Keth rushed to the command center still wearing his sleeping robes. His gray skin looked pale under the emergency lighting. "Report," he demanded. Captain Dex of the Aquarian Federation Navy stood at the main tactical display. His blue-green skin glistened with stress, moisture as he pointed at the incoming threats. 15 ships, Ambassador. Configuration matches Korthak clan raiders. They are using advanced stealth systems and adaptive shielding. Science Officer Vex materialized beside them, his crystal form pulsing with alarm. The Korthak pirates. They have terrorized this sector for decades. Their technology is stolen from dozens of different civilizations. They adapt quickly to any defense. Dr. Rodriguez and Colonel Mitchell arrived in the command center fully dressed and alert. The Marine had his sidearm visible on his hip and carried a rifle in his hands. Several other Marines followed behind him, all armed with human weapons. "How bad is it?" Rodriguez asked. Captain Dex's tentacles writhed anxiously. "Very bad. The Korthak specialize in boarding actions. They disable ships and stations, then take everything valuable. They leave no survivors." The main screen showed the approaching pirate fleet. The ships looked like twisted metal sculptures covered in weapons and armor plating. They moved in perfect formation, their hulls shimmering with energy fields that bent light around them. "Estimated time to contact?" Mitchell asked. 12 minutes, Dex replied. "I have activated all defensive systems and called for reinforcements, but the nearest Galactic Council fleet is 6 hours away." Ambassador Keth watched the tactical display with growing concern. "What weapons do they typically use?" "Everything," Commander Orth answered grimly. "Energy weapons, plasma cannons, particle beams, ion disruptors, and hacking systems that can take control of our own weapons. Their leader, Grimjaw, is a cyborg with enhanced combat systems. He has never lost a boarding action." Colonel Mitchell studied the display carefully. "What kind of defensive capabilities do we have?" Captain Dex activated the station's weapon systems. Dozens of plasma cannons emerged from hidden ports along the station's hull. Energy shields flickered to life around critical areas. Standard Galactic Council defensive package. Plasma batteries, particle beam arrays, and adaptive energy shielding. "Energy shields," Mitchell repeated thoughtfully. "What do they protect against?" "All forms of energy weapons," Vex explained proudly. "The shields analyze incoming attacks and adapt their frequency to deflect or absorb the energy. They become stronger against repeated attacks of the same type." The Marines looked at each other with expressions that the aliens could not interpret. Lieutenant Thompson whispered something to Sergeant Chen, who nodded with what looked like satisfaction. 10 minutes to contact," announced the tactical officer. The pirate ships suddenly accelerated, their engines flaring with stolen energy. As they closed the distance, their hulls began to shift and change. Armor plating rearranged itself. Weapon ports opened in new configurations. The ships were literally rebuilding themselves as they approached. "Adaptive hulls," Captain Dex said, with despair. "They are modifying their ships based on our defensive emissions. By the time they reach us, they will be optimized to counter everything we have." 7 minutes to contact. "They are charging weapons." The lead pirate ship was larger than the others, covered in mismatched armor and bristling with weapons from a dozen different civilizations. A communication signal came through filled with static and interference. "This is Grimjaw of the Korthak clan," a harsh mechanical voice announced. "Surrender your station and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in total destruction." The voice was clearly artificial, processed through cybernetic implants. In the background, they could hear the sounds of weapons being prepared and pirates shouting in their guttural language. Ambassador Keth activated the communication system. "This is a Galactic Council research facility. You are violating 17 different interstellar treaties by attacking us." Harsh laughter echoed from the speakers. "Treaties are for the weak. You soft council races have forgotten what real warfare looks like. Prepare to die." 5 minutes to contact. Captain Dex began deploying his forces throughout the station. Alien security teams took positions at critical corridors and junction points. Their plasma rifles hummed with ready energy. Automated defense turrets emerged from the walls and ceiling. Colonel Mitchell approached Captain Dex. "Sir, request permission to deploy my Marines in support of your defense." Dex looked at the handful of humans with their primitive weapons. "Colonel, I appreciate the offer, but your kinetic weapons will be useless against Korthak adaptive armor. Their shielding systems are designed specifically to counter projectile weapons as well as energy attacks. With respect, sir, we would still like to try. 3 minutes to contact. Pirates are launching boarding pods. The main screen showed dozens of small attack craft separating from the pirate ships. Each pod was heavily armored and moved in unpredictable patterns to avoid defensive fire. They were heading for docking ports and maintenance hatches throughout the station. The station's plasma cannons opened fire. Brilliant beams of energy lanced out toward the attacking fleet. Most of the shots struck the pirate ships directly, but the adaptive shielding absorbed the energy and grew stronger. After the first few hits, the plasma beams began bouncing harmlessly off the enemy hulls. "Their shields are adapting faster than expected," reported the tactical officer. "Our weapons are becoming less effective with each shot." The boarding pods reached the station and began cutting through the outer hull with industrial plasma torches. Alarms sounded as atmospheric pressure dropped in several sections. Emergency blast doors slammed shut to contain the breaches. "Boarding. Parties detected on decks 7, 12, and 15, announced the computer system. Captain Dex coordinated his forces through the communication system. "All units, enemies are breaching through multiple entry points. Deploy according to Defense Plan 7. The aliens moved efficiently through the corridors, their energy weapons ready. They took cover behind blast barriers and activated portable shield generators. Everything was proceeding according to standard Galactic Council defensive doctrine. The first contact came on Deck 7. Alien security forces engaged a group of Korthak pirates who came through the breach wearing powered armor and carrying weapons that looked like they had been cobbled together from spare parts. The pirates returned fire with a mixture of energy beams, projectile weapons, and devices that the aliens did not recognize. "Deck 7 team reporting heavy resistance," came the voice over the communication system. "Enemy weapons are adapting to our plasma fire. Requesting backup." Similar reports came from the other breach points. The pirates were using technology that could counter the alien defenses faster than the defenders could adapt their own systems. Within minutes, the alien security teams were being pushed back from all 3 breach points. Colonel Mitchell listened to the tactical reports with growing concern. "Captain Dex, permission to deploy my people to the breach points." "Colonel, your weapons cannot possibly be more effective than our plasma rifles against adaptive armor." "Maybe not, sir, but we would like to try a different approach." "Captain." Dex was about to refuse when another urgent report came through. "Deck 12 is lost. Pirates have broken through our defensive line and are advancing toward the power core. Our weapons are having no effect." Ambassador Keth looked at the tactical display in horror. Red indicators showed pirate forces advancing rapidly through the station. The alien defenders were being systematically overwhelmed by enemies who could neutralize their technology. "Colonel Mitchell," Keth said desperately, "deploy your forces wherever you think they can be most effective." Mitchell spoke into his communication device. "All Marines, this is Colonel Mitchell. Deploy to breach points. Rules of engagement are weapons free. Show these pirates what human weapons can do." Staff Sergeant Tom Rodriguez led the 1st Marine team toward Deck 7. His team carried shotguns, assault rifles, and grenades that looked ancient compared to the alien technology around them. As they moved through the corridors, they could hear the sounds of battle growing louder. The Marines reached Deck 7, just as the alien security forces were making their final retreat. Korthak pirates in adaptive armor were advancing steadily, their stolen weapons easily countering every plasma blast fired at them. The pirates moved with confidence, knowing that their technology made them nearly invincible. Then the Marines opened fire. The sound was deafening in the enclosed corridors. Shotgun blasts echoed off the metal walls. Assault rifles chattered in controlled bursts. The pirates in their adaptive armor suddenly found themselves facing something their technology could not handle. The adaptive shielding that easily deflected energy weapons offered no protection against simple lead bullets and steel pellets. The powered armor that could analyze and counter plasma bolts was useless against kinetic impacts that relied on basic physics rather than complex energy patterns. Pirates who had been advancing confidently suddenly found themselves falling as human bullets punched through their defenses like they were made of paper. Their adaptive technology tried desperately to compensate for this new threat, but there was nothing to adapt to. Bullets were just pieces of metal moving very fast. Deck 7 secured, Rodriguez reported calmly. Pirates neutralized, no Marine casualties. Similar reports came from the other breach points as Marine teams engaged the invaders. The pirates' technological superiority meant nothing against weapons that functioned on principles too simple to counter. The day aliens discovered why humans were the only ones still wielding old-school weapon. The command center fell silent except for the steady stream of reports from Marine units throughout the station. Ambassador Keth stared at the tactical display in amazement as red hostile indicators turned green one by one. The Korthak pirates who had been systematically destroying alien defensive positions were now being eliminated with shocking efficiency. Deck 12 clear, pirates neutralized. Deck 15 secure, no Marine casualties reported. All breach points are under human control. Captain Dex turned to Colonel Mitchell with confusion written across his aquatic features. How is this possible? Our most advanced weapons were useless against their adaptive systems. Your primitive, kinetic weapons should have been even less effective. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward to help explain. Captain, your energy weapons work by projecting organized patterns of particles or waves. Those patterns can be analyzed, predicted, and countered by sufficiently advanced technology. But a bullet is just a piece of metal traveling in a straight line. There is no pattern to analyze. Science Officer Vex pulsed with frustrated light. But adaptive armor should provide protection against kinetic impacts as well as energy attacks. Lieutenant Thompson's voice came through the communication system from Deck 7. Sir, you might want to see what we found down here. These pirates have some interesting equipment. Colonel Mitchell looked at Captain Dex. Permission to investigate the captured equipment? Granted. I want to understand how your weapons achieved what ours could not. A few minutes later, the senior staff gathered around the remains of a Korthak pirate's powered armor. The suit was clearly built from technology stolen from dozens of different civilizations. Energy conduits ran along the outside, connecting various defensive systems and weapon modules. Corporal Amy Johnson knelt beside the armor, pointing out different components. This energy absorption matrix is designed to capture and redirect plasma bolts. These field generators create barriers tuned to specific frequencies. And this analysis computer predicts incoming attack patterns and adjusts defenses automatically. She picked up her combat knife and demonstrated on a piece of the armor plating. But none of that matters when you just stick a piece of steel through the gaps in the armor joints. Ambassador Keth watched in fascination as the simple blade easily penetrated sophisticated defensive systems. The armor was designed to stop advanced weapons but not simple mechanical tools. Exactly, agreed Sergeant Billy Foster, who had just arrived from Deck 12. We found the same thing with their robot systems. Watch this. Foster showed them a captured Korthak battle droid. The machine was covered in sensors, energy weapons, and defensive systems. Its metal body gleamed with advanced alloys, and its optical sensors glowed with artificial intelligence. This thing shrugged off plasma rifle fire like it was nothing, Foster explained. Its armor adapted to every energy signature our alien friends tried. But when I put a grenade next to it, he indicated the twisted wreckage where the droid's torso used to be. Turns out all that fancy armor doesn't help much against a simple explosion that just pushes metal fragments around really fast. Dr. Marcus Webb had been studying the pirate weapons and equipment with scientific interest. The pattern is clear. Throughout all their technology, every defensive system is designed to counter energy-based attacks. Plasma, particle beams, ion cannons, electromagnetic pulses. They have solutions for all of it. But they never encountered kinetic weapons, asked Diplomat Yana. Why would they? Webb replied. Every other species in the galaxy abandoned kinetic weapons thousands of years ago. The pirates adapted their technology to fight against the weapons they actually faced. Colonel Mitchell examined a captured pirate rifle. The weapon was a complex assembly of energy projectors and targeting systems. This is very sophisticated technology, but it is designed to fight enemies who use the same type of technology. He picked up his own rifle for comparison. The human weapon looked crude beside the alien technology, but it had just proven devastatingly effective. Our weapons evolved differently because we faced different challenges. Science Officer Vex floated closer to examine both weapons. What challenges required you to maintain kinetic weapon technology? Each other, Mitchell replied simply. Humans have been fighting wars against other humans for thousands of years. Every time someone developed a new weapon, someone else developed a defense against it. Energy shields were countered by kinetic penetrators. Electronic countermeasures were defeated by mechanical systems. Adaptive armor was bypassed by weapons that relied on physics instead of technology. Dr. Rodriguez added more context. Our military development was driven by constant arms races. If energy weapons became common, kinetic weapons became valuable, again because they were unexpected. If electronic systems became standard, mechanical backups became essential because they were reliable. Ambassador Keth was beginning to understand. Your species never moved past kinetic weapons because other humans forced you to keep them effective. Competition, agreed Mitchell. Every human military had to assume that their enemies would find ways to counter their best technology. So, we kept the old technology working too as backup and insurance. Captain Dex studied the tactical reports from the battle. The pirates were completely unprepared for weapons they had not seen in thousands of years. Their defensive systems had no programming to counter kinetic attacks because no one uses them anymore. Except us, said Lieutenant Danny Miller, who had just joined the group. And now you know why. Diplomat Yenna was processing the implications with her telepathic abilities. This suggests that the galaxy's movement toward pure energy weapons created a strategic weakness. By abandoning older technologies, we became vulnerable to enemies who could counter the newer ones. Every species followed the same path, observed Webb. Energy weapons are clearly superior in most situations, so it made sense to adopt them universally, but universal adoption meant universal vulnerability. Science Officer Vex pulsed with new understanding. The humans maintained technological diversity in their weapons because they faced opponents who would exploit any weakness. The rest of us achieved technological uniformity because we faced opponents who used similar systems. The communication system crackled with an incoming transmission from the pirate fleet. Grimjaw's mechanical voice was filled with rage and confusion. What weapons are you using? My scanners show no energy signatures from your attacks. How are you destroying my warriors? Colonel Mitchell took the communication device. This is Colonel Mitchell, United States Marine Corps. Your people are being engaged by human military forces using standard kinetic weapons. Impossible. Kinetic weapons are primitive. My armor is designed to stop any projectile. Apparently, not. There was a long pause before Grimjaw responded. You think your ancient weapons make you dangerous? I will show you what modern warfare looks like. The transmission ended with the harsh sound of the pirate leader's artificial laughter. Captain, Dex checked the tactical display. The main pirate fleet is still out there. Grimjaw will not retreat after losing face like this. He will bring everything he has against us. How much everything? Asked Mitchell. 14 ships, approximately 3,000 pirates, weapons and technology stolen from dozens of civilizations. Plus, Grimjaw himself is equipped with military-grade cybernetic enhancements. Ambassador Keth looked at the handful of Marines who had just defeated the supposedly invincible boarding parties. Can your people handle a full assault from the pirate fleet? Colonel Mitchell considered the tactical situation. Sir, we will need support from your forces and coordination with your defensive systems. But yes, I believe we can handle them. How can you be confident? You are outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Because they are still thinking like everyone else in the galaxy. They assume that superior technology automatically means superior capability. They will keep trying to counter our weapons with more advanced systems. Dr. Rodriguez smiled. They will never think to counter our weapons with simpler systems. What do you mean? Asked Vex. Sergeant Chen's voice came over the communication system from the armory level. Colonel, we have finished our inventory of available materials. We can manufacture additional ammunition and explosive devices using station resources. Good work, Sergeant. Begin production immediately. Captain Dex was confused. Manufacture ammunition? Why not simply use the station's energy reserves to power more weapons? Because energy can be drained, redirected, or cut off, explained Mitchell. But once we make bullets and explosives, they work whether we have power or not. The pirate fleet formed a massive battle formation outside the research station. Grimjaw's flagship led the assault, its hull bristling with weapons collected from 100 different battles. The cyborg pirate leader stood on his command bridge, his mechanical implants glowing with rage and determination. Deploy all boarding craft, he ordered through his artificial voice synthesizer. Bring me the heads of these primitive humans. Show them what happens when they humiliate the Korthak clan. Hundreds of attack pods launched from the pirate ships, far more than the first wave. Each pod was heavily armored and carried teams of pirates equipped with the most advanced weapons they had stolen. Grimjaw was not taking any chances this time. In the station's command center, Colonel Mitchell studied the tactical display with grim satisfaction. They are doing exactly what I expected. More of the same, just bigger. Ambassador Keth watched the approaching swarm of enemy craft with alarm. Colonel, there are too many of them. Even if your weapons are effective, you do not have enough people to defend against this assault. You are right, sir. We need to change the battlefield. Mitchell activated the station communication system. All Marine units, this is Colonel Mitchell, execute Plan Delta. I repeat, execute Plan Delta. Captain Dex looked confused. Plan Delta? What is Plan Delta? Something we planned while your people were trying to figure out why our weapons work, replied Lieutenant Thompson as she led a team of Marines through the command center carrying equipment that looked like metal cylinders with timing devices. Master Sergeant Kelly Adams appeared on the communication system from the external maintenance bay. Colonel, charges are placed on pirate ships Alpha through Gamma. Remote detonation is ready. Wait, interrupted Science Officer Vex. You placed explosive devices on the enemy ships? When? How? Dr. Rodriguez smiled as she watched the tactical display. While the pirates were focused on their boarding assault, small teams of Marines used maintenance airlocks to reach the pirate hulls. The pirates were not watching for anyone leaving our station. That is impossible. Our sensors show no human activity in space. Your sensors look for energy signatures and electronic emissions, explained Sergeant Chen. Our people used simple magnetic clamps and mechanical propulsion. No electronics, no energy signatures, just humans in spacesuits with tools and explosives. On the tactical display, 3 of the larger pirate ships suddenly erupted in brilliant explosions. The blast came from inside the ships, tearing through their hulls and destroying critical systems. 2 of the ships began drifting helplessly while the third broke apart completely. Grimjaw's voice roared over the communication channels. How did they get explosives onto my ships? My sensors detected nothing. His technical officer's response was filled with panic. Sir, their explosive devices appear to be chemical-based. Simple compounds that our scanners cannot distinguish from normal ship materials. Impossible. No one uses chemical explosives anymore. The pirate assault continued, but now the remaining ships were forced to divide their attention between attacking the station and protecting themselves from sabotage. Their formations became defensive rather than aggressive. Captain Nick Thompson led a squadron of improvised fighter craft that the humans had modified with both alien energy weapons and human kinetic systems. The combination created weapons platforms that the pirates could not effectively counter. Eagle Squadron, this is Eagle Leader. Thompson's voice came through the communication system. Engage the enemy fighters with mixed weapons. Use energy weapons to force them into evasive maneuvers, then hit them with kinetic rounds while they are distracted. The human fighters moved through the battle space with tactics that the pirates had never encountered. Instead of engaging in direct energy weapon duels, they used hit-and-run attacks with conventional missiles and machine gun fire. The pirate fighters, optimized for energy weapon combat, found themselves outmaneuvered by opponents using three-dimensional thinking. Major Rebecca Davis coordinated the fighter attacks from the station's Combat Information Center. All squadrons, the enemy is adapting their energy shields to counter our plasma weapons. Switch to kinetic attacks only. The change in tactics created chaos in the pirate formations. Their ships had been modified to fight enemies using predictable energy-based systems. When the humans switched to unpredictable kinetic weapons, the pirate defensive systems became useless. Grimjaw watched his fleet being systematically destroyed by weapons that his technology could not understand or counter. His cybernetic implants calculated probable outcomes and found only failure in every scenario. All ships, prepare for direct assault on the station, he commanded. If we cannot destroy them at range, we will board their facility and kill them with our bare hands. The remaining pirate ships accelerated toward the research station, their hulls glowing with energy as they prepared for close-range combat. They intended to ram the station if necessary, turning the battle into a desperate melee where superior numbers would decide the outcome. Colonel Mitchell watched the approaching fleet with calm satisfaction. Captain Dex, please prepare your people for emergency evacuation to the lower levels. Are you abandoning the defense? Keth asked with alarm. No, sir. We are about to show these pirates the difference between tactical withdrawal and strategic positioning. The Marines had spent the last hour placing additional explosive charges throughout the station's outer sections. Unlike the sophisticated alien demolition systems, these were simple chemical explosives with mechanical timing devices. They were designed to create specific types of structural damage rather than maximum destruction. All units, 30 seconds, to detonation, announced Mitchell. The pirate ships closed to ramming distance, their weapons charging for point-blank attacks. Grimjaw's flagship led the assault, its reinforced hull designed to smash through defensive barriers and armor plating. The explosions came not from the station's weapons, but from inside the station itself. Entire outer sections detached from the main structure, creating a cloud of debris and twisted metal around the research facility. The pirates found themselves flying through a maze of spinning wreckage instead of making clean attack runs. But the debris was not random. The Marines had calculated the explosion patterns to create specific flight paths through the wreckage field. Paths that were too narrow for large pirate ships but perfect for small human fighters. Captain Thompson's squadron emerged from hiding positions within the debris field, attacking the pirate ships from angles that their weapons could not cover. The pirates were trapped in a three-dimensional minefield of their own making, unable to maneuver effectively while under constant attack from directions they could not predict. This is impossible, Grimjaw raged. They turned their own station into a weapon. His tactical officer tried to plot an escape course through the debris field. Sir, our ships are too large to navigate through the wreckage. We need to retreat and regroup. No. I will not be defeated by primitives with ancient weapons. Grimjaw activated his personal combat suit and prepared to lead a boarding party directly onto the station. His cybernetic body was equipped with the most advanced weapons and armor that the Korthak clan had ever stolen. He would personally kill the humans who had humiliated his fleet. The cyborg pirate leader launched himself through space toward the research station, followed by his most elite warriors. Their powered armor carried energy shields, plasma weapons, and electronic warfare systems. They were confident that no human weapon could threaten them in direct combat. They reached the station's main docking bay and began cutting through the sealed doors with industrial plasma torches. The metal barriers offered little resistance to their advanced equipment. Within minutes, they had breached the station's defenses and were inside the human stronghold. Colonel Mitchell was waiting for them. The Marine officer stood alone in the docking bay, armed with nothing more than his standard rifle and sidearm. Behind him, the corridor leading deeper into the station was dark and apparently undefended. Grimjaw's mechanical laughter echoed through his suit's external speakers. One human against the greatest pirate leader in the galaxy. You should have stayed hidden with the rest of your kind. I am exactly where I need to be, Mitchell replied calmly. The cyborg raised his plasma cannon and fired a brilliant beam of energy directly at the human. The weapon was powerful enough to vaporize a tank, more than sufficient to eliminate one unarmored soldier. The plasma bolt struck an empty space. Mitchell had simply stepped aside and let the energy blast hit the wall behind him. The movement was so casual that Grimjaw almost missed it. Impossible. My targeting systems are perfect. Mitchell fired his rifle once. The bullet struck Grimjaw's plasma cannon and shattered the weapon's energy-focusing array. Sparks flew from the damaged equipment as the sophisticated weapon became useless scrap metal. Your targeting systems are designed to predict the movements of enemies using energy shields and powered armor, Mitchell explained as he worked the bolt action of his rifle. They calculate where an enemy will be based on the limitations of their equipment, but I am not using any equipment for you to calculate. Grimjaw drew a backup weapon, an ion disruptor that could disable any electronic system. He fired the weapon at the human, expecting to shut down whatever advanced technology was keeping him alive. Nothing happened. Mitchell continued advancing steadily, his rifle ready for another shot. No electronics to disrupt, the Marine explained. No energy shields to drain, no powered armor to shut down, just a man with a gun. The other pirates opened fire with every weapon they had. Energy beams, particle blasts, and electromagnetic pulses filled the docking bay with destructive force. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small starship. When the energy discharges faded, Mitchell was still walking toward them. His rifle cracked again, and another pirate fell as a simple bullet found the gap between his helmet and chest armor. "You see?" Mitchell said conversationally as he reloaded his weapon. "Your people made the same mistake everyone else in the galaxy made. You assumed that more advanced automatically meant more effective." Grimjaw activated his cybernetic combat, enhancements increasing his speed and strength to superhuman levels. He drew a monomolecular blade capable of cutting through any known material and charged at the human with killing fury. Colonel Mitchell set his rifle aside and drew his combat knife. The cyborg's advanced blade met the human's simple steel in a shower of sparks. Grimjaw's enhanced reflexes and mechanical strength should have made the fight impossibly one-sided, but the human fought with techniques that the pirates' combat programming could not predict or counter. Where Grimjaw relied on technological superiority, Mitchell used tactical thinking. Where the cyborg used brute force enhanced by machinery, the human used leverage and timing perfected by training. The simple knife found its way past sophisticated defenses through skill rather than technology. Grimjaw fell to the deck with Mitchell's knife buried in the one spot his armor could not protect. The junction between his cybernetic implants and his organic brainstem. The remaining pirates stared in shock at their fallen leader. The most dangerous pirate in the galaxy had been killed by a simple piece of sharpened steel wielded by a human who understood that the best technology means nothing without the wisdom to use it properly. "Surrender," Mitchell said quietly, "and you will be treated according to Galactic Council standards for prisoners of war." The pirates dropped their weapons. 3 days after the battle, the Galactic Council emergency session was held aboard the Harmony's Edge. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the main assembly hall, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes under the soft lighting. At the center of attention stood Ambassador Keth, still processing what he had witnessed. "The implications of what occurred here extend far beyond a single pirate raid," Keth announced to the assembly. "For the first time in galactic history, we have encountered a species that maintained technological diversity in their military systems, while achieving spaceflight capability." Science Officer Vex floated beside the main display, showing tactical recordings from the battle. "The human approach to weapons development challenges everything we understand about technological progression. While we evolved toward energy-based systems for their obvious advantages, humans continued developing kinetic weapons because of strategic necessity." Commander Orth clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "The pirates who have terrorized trade routes for decades were defeated because they could not adapt to weapons they had never encountered. Their technology was optimized for fighting enemies who used similar systems." Dr. Rodriguez sat with Colonel Mitchell in the observer section, watching as the alien representative struggled to understand concepts that humans considered basic military doctrine. "They are having trouble accepting that newer is not always better," she whispered. "Give them time," Mitchell replied. They have spent thousands of years assuming that technological advancement only moved in one direction. Diplomat Yenna addressed the assembly from her position near the communication systems. The humans have revealed a critical weakness in our current military philosophy. By abandoning older technologies completely, we became vulnerable to enemies who could counter our advanced systems. A representative from the crystalline collective pulsed with concerned light. Are you suggesting that we should abandon energy weapons and return to primitive kinetic systems? Dr. Marcus Webb stood to address the question. Not abandon, but supplement. The most effective military force uses the right tool for each situation. Energy weapons have clear advantages in many circumstances, but kinetic weapons have advantages in others. What advantages could primitive projectiles have over sophisticated energy systems? Asked a delegate from the Aquarian Federation. Colonel Mitchell activated the tactical display and showed footage from the recent battle. Reliability in adverse conditions. Effectiveness against electronic countermeasures. Inability to be redirected or absorbed by energy-based defenses. Psychological impact on enemies who have never faced them before. He switched to another display, showing human weapons alongside alien technology. But more importantly, unpredictability. When every enemy you face uses similar weapons, similar defenses, and similar tactics, they become predictable. Humans stayed unpredictable by maintaining multiple approaches to the same problems. Captain Dex, who had been quiet during most of the session, finally spoke. The humans not only defeated the Korthak pirates, they did it with weapons that most of us considered obsolete museum pieces. This suggests our understanding of military effectiveness is fundamentally flawed. Ambassador Keth called for the Assembly's attention. The Galactic Council formally requests that Earth consider joining our organization as a military advisory partner. We need human expertise to evaluate and improve our defensive capabilities. The request caused a stir throughout the Assembly. Several species had never allowed outsiders to influence their military doctrine.